Hello everyone, this is the second part of the inheritance practice video that should hopefully help you with some of these more theoretical inheritance problems. So the first one is which part of the missing code in the constructor is acceptable. My w equals my x right here, very clearly, w is just, or my w, they're both local variables, but even if that was a w, which it may be on the test, that's just the private instance variable, so you can't, a child class cannot directly access without a private variable, instance variable in the super class. So that one's out. Super my x right here. So if you call the super class constructor, that would work. So this one is an acceptable option. Super of true. Well, what kind of value needs to be called? Well, true, a Boolean, true would work, and we'll call the super classes, and so that'll be fine. And this one is kind of tricky, super of parentheses. Now, if we don't put any constructors in a class, it does get the default one by default. And again, that now we often write our own default constructor, right? No parameter constructor. But if you have a constructor in there at all, then it doesn't give that default constructor anymore. So if you try to call super with parentheses there, it won't work because it's going to call the zero parameter constructor up here, and we see there's not a zero parameter constructor there. So again, these two are acceptable. That one in this case would not be. These are pretty straightforward. These examples right here, they should be pretty straightforward. I think the easiest thing to do is when you see some code like this, is just draw a quick inheritance tree. It's just a lot easier to visualize it. So we'll get to the methods in a second, but then we can just kind of go through the is-a relationship. So for example, w is a w, yeah, it's pretty straightforward, and that's an acceptable parameter to give it. I'll just stay down here. Okay, x is a w, is that fine? X is a w, x is a w, that's fine. Okay, y is a w, is that also fine? Y is a w, yep, that's fine. Z is a y, z is not a y, so that would not work. Y is a z, y is also not a z. Z is an x, z is a x, yep, that works. An x is a z, that would not work. So again, it's just pretty straightforward inheritance tree, kind of tracing it back. Now let's go to the more challenging ones. Let's assume that all these work, and adding in the appropriate constructors. Adding in those appropriate constructors, and let's take a look one by one. Again, having the tree, the inheritance tree right over here, will help with the methods written down, will really help out in your understanding of what's going on. So, for example, this first one, object 1 is a x reference with a z object. So object 1, method 1. Object 1 is an x reference. Okay, so method 1, yep, right there, the x reference. Start with the reference, right? x1, and then C for the exceptions if it's not there. x1 has a m1, we're good to go. Okay, x reference, method 3. X reference, method 3. Again, same thing, good to go. Okay. X method 2, okay, x, oh no, it doesn't have, x reference, it doesn't have method 2, but it inherits, let's go up, this one, what it inherits from, does have a method 2, so that would work, we're good to go. Okay, next, kind of picking apart this difference, object 2, which is a W reference, and object tray, which is also a W reference. Let's see if W has a method 4 in there, okay, does what did I just say? Yeah, does W have a method 4? W doesn't have a method 4. The error flag should be going off. Okay. But now let's see which one of these would be even theoretically possible if we just change some things around. So 2, so already we know these are going to compile, so we got to fix them somehow. But object 2 is what kind of object? Object 2 of the reference goes to what kind of object? A Y object. So let's see if Y has a method 4. Does Y have a method 4? It doesn't, so that's right out. Okay. But now Z, let's see if Z has a method 4. Aha, Z does have a method 4. So think maybe the example animal class and dog and then Labrador Retriever. So maybe animal class doesn't have the I'm a cool Labrador Retriever method, but Labrador Retriever does. So we might have that reference, but then want the object to accomplish that. So we could do this one, but we'd need to downcast it. To downcast it, I'll just show you right now. We'd have to do downcast it to be the object that it is. So Z object for object tray, right? And then call method for on it. I know it's kind of tricky, but yeah, there you go. Okay. So oh no, method for. Okay, so that would downcast it appropriately to tell, hey, trust me, this is a Z object that the W reference is going to. This is a Labrador Retriever object that the animal reference is going to. So hopefully that helps right there. Now let's go to these little sets of challenging problems. Let's see, so object 2, which is a W reference. And so a W reference, let's see if W has a method 2 that takes in an int. Does W have a method 2 that takes in an int? Good to go. Pretty straightforward. Okay, now object 2, method 2, does it have a method, does W have a method that takes in a W, a double? No, it doesn't. Error. Okay, now let's keep going because it only takes in an int. Now object 2, method 3, that takes in let's look at W, just see if it has a method 3 that takes in a double. No, but again, since we need to look and say, okay, but can we fix this one with downcasting? Okay, so object 2 is a what kind of object? A Y object. And does Y have a method 3? Yes, Y does have a method 3 that takes in a double. So all we have to do is also downcast that one. There you go. And finally, object tray, which is a W reference. Does it have W reference? Does it have a method 2? Yes, it does. That's pretty straightforward and pretty easy. But if we, but at runtime, obviously the compile time on the left, runtime on the right. Compile time, this would compile because W does have a method 2, but at runtime, that's when the decision is going to be made. So method 2 of the Z class would print. I'm not going to focus on that too much right now, but hopefully that helps. So there's your example of how to fix it with downcasting, and then I'll also do this other one to practice it being downcast. So that is it was a W reference. It needs to be a Y reference. So we'll do Y downcast that as a Y reference so that it knows it can call method 3 with that double in there. There you go. Thanks so much, and God bless.